Thank you very much. Welcome everyone.
Thank
Today I'm going to cover two topics. One is node management, right? And another is a deployment and continuous CI/CD, a simple CI/CD pipeline where we are going to create a Docker image and deploy and push it to production. So this is the high level plan. Okay. So now step one is you should have some sort of CI/CD pipe. I mean, some sort of um, tool to create your Docker container and then keep on changing it, and then a simple way to deploy to Kubernetes. Okay, so that is the first thing I want to cover now. So what I've done is I am here and I'll share this link for you. I'll refer and you can fork it and do look into this later. I put this message here. So now I have a repository in GitHub by name Flask. This contains fundamentally a Docker file, very simple Docker file, which says take this file, take the folder app inside the Docker container and use this requirement.txt and install whatever is the content of the requirement.txt. This is my simplest Docker file, which installs a Flask Python app. Now, what is the content of this app folder? If we go to this app folder, there is only two files. One is requirements, which just says Flask, just 5-character file. Now, app.py says it has to um, import this Flask and then start this Flask app. That is all it is going to say. Okay. So now when these two files gets embedded inside this Python simple Docker container, and from Python means from Docker Hub Python. There's already Python image. So what we're saying is from Docker Hub's Python image, import that Python image that is going to be our base. On it, make use of this work directory and copy the /app folder to here, and then run this command, then start this python app.py as the startup after the container boots up. That is all this Docker file is doing. Okay, so this is the Docker file we have developed, right? So, but obviously here, this app.py will not be just the simple file. This will be many files, lots of configurations, contents, and CSS, HTML, JavaScript, all those things you can have. But this is one of the very simple Docker file. And this file I just created yesterday. What this GitHub workflow does is, this is actually a standard template. If you want, I will show you how I created it. I created an action. I created a new workflow, and then I said build, test, and push Docker image to GitHub packages. When I click this, set up this workflow, this guy gives me all these file details. Okay. Now the same thing I took it and used for my workflow. If you look at this file and this file and my file, it is exactly the same, except I've added where is my registry docker.io and the image name is Canada/Flask. Canada is my Docker Hub ID and Flask is a project which I already have in Docker Hub repository. You see is in Docker Hub, hub.docker.com, I have Canada is my user ID name, as you can see here. And Flask is a repository which I have. And inside this, all whatever I'm going to build here, whatever the output of this one, it will go to this repository and stay here, is what I would like to show you here. Okay, so this simple configuration says, go to this repository called docker.io, which is also hub.docker.com. They are same, right? And what I'm saying is, take this content of this repository and build it and push it to and create a tag called docker.io Canada flask :v1 and GitHub run number. That's a variable. Okay. Now all these details are here. I did not create any of this. I just modified, made some minor changes. Okay. So I have this GitHub workflow, which I created just yesterday, and I can run it. If I run it, what will happen? Oh no, actually, I've said when there is any push to this main branch, then build it. It goes and build. Okay. So now this is my code. If I make any change, it will build, because this GitHub action, we have configured it. If there is any change to the main branch, take this source code, build this Docker container and upload it to the Docker register. Okay, that's what I've configured, right? So now, just for the sake of testing, let us go here and edit this file. Okay, now I've updated this file with version 1.9, let us say, with awesome changes on November 10, 2021. Okay, so I'm trying. I know version was 1.8, which was pushed ago 42 minutes ago. So if I push again, I know this is going to be version 1.9 and changes on. So this text, you're seeing that I'm updating it. Okay. So a developer has come, a new functionality has come, or new capability of this application has to be added. So he has made a change and he's committing the changes, okay, to the directly to the main branch. And immediately after I do this, you see this button here, and this will kick in because I've made a change to the main branch, and this guy started building. And what it is going to do is, it is going to take my code, create a Docker container. As you see here, it is checking out the repository, and then it is updating this code, and then it is following whatever the Docker file I had, and then it created this new Docker container, which adding a new layer, right? And change the code, and then all the jobs are completed. And then if you see, especially in this um, build and push Docker image here, if you see, it is running a Docker command, and it is getting any existing Docker image I had, and then like a multi-layered sandwich or a burger, it adds my new code onto this, and then it pushes it, and it goes. Now, if you come here and see, uh, 1.8 was what is the latest one, because I've sorted by newest. If I refresh, I should have 1.9. Okay, newest. Is it in the second page or what? 1.9. Okay, pushed a minute ago by me, by my ID, right? So I've created a new version of this Flask image, right? So this is how a developer will test in his laptop and then pull it and test and continue to develop, right? Okay, now this container image is in the registry. Uh, you can go to Docker Hub registry, but then most of the large corporations, they'll have their own internal Docker registry, which is not hugely complex to build. Actually, there is a Docker container by name registry, right? So you can just download this Docker registry and make use of your internal registry so that your developer will push to this registry, and you will call it like my company or registry.mycompany.com inside your company. So everybody will push to this registry, and then your Kubernetes cluster can pull it from there. So it's a choice. But then I'm not setting up any Docker registry. I just want to demo it so that it's public now. Like you can use it. Anybody in the world can use it. They can download this. Okay. So I pushed 1.9 and 1.9 has come. Now let us go to my Kubernetes cluster. Okay. Now, if you remember yesterday, I had a deployment called Flask deployment. Okay. And there is only one pod running here. Okay. And okay, let us also look at what is my public static IP address. Flask deployment, the IP address is 35.223.120.118. Edit, copy. Now, in my browser, if I type this guy, I should get 1.8 because before we joined, 1.8 is what I was running on. Okay. Now, if you look at the magic, so 1.8 is running in my deployment. Now, either I'm the developer or I'm the operations person, and operation person, the developer says, hey, the new version is ready. Okay. So now, let us even keep these two guys like this. Okay. So now this is my existing version up and running 1.8 version. Now developer says, hey, my 1.9 version is ready with enhancement and new functionalities and stuff. Now what I do, very simple. I come to this 1.8. Okay. I change to 1.9 and I save it. Okay. Then you will see in the pods, this becomes yellow, yellow, and then it is green. Now, if I refresh, you see this magic. Maybe it's in cache. See, you see 1.9, right? So I just want to quickly show you this thing. And one more quick thing also I want to show you is, let us say I scale up this application. Nobody runs like, one part as we discussed earlier. Let us say I run 5 parts. Okay. And then let us say let me go back to my version 1. Sorry, I don't, I want to go to version 1.8. Not this guy, sorry, this guy. Okay, this is just to show something. I'm going to version 1. Before I save, I want to go to the pod and say Flask deployment. Okay, there's 5 parts. Now I'm saving this guy. I'm going to 1.8, the older version. So this guy will see, okay, now I'm currently running 1.9, but then the deployment needed is 1.8. So it will kill one by one and replace it with 1.8. So if I go back here and refresh, I'm gone with 1.8. Okay, my older version. Now what I want to show is, let us say, okay, now what is interesting to see here is, okay, so now I've configured, I mean, by default, these are all like default capability. I've not even configured this. I've said the strategy for rolling update is when doing a rolling update, max surge is 25 percentage. Like if you have 4 parts, and if they say update everything, don't add 4 more parts. Add only 25 percentage more, means 1 part. Okay, and then delete the old pod, add the new pod, delete the old pod, and get the new version of the Docker container in the pods. Now, if something goes wrong, ensure that not more than 25 percentage of the pods are unavailable. In the sense, okay, if something goes wrong in the first pod, then don't continue to roll over. I mean, patch it. That's what it says. So now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to have a version which is a wrong version, which is a non-existent version. And let us look at this pod, what it does. You know what? Let me clean up this too, guys. This is unnecessarily distracting us. Okay. So now this guy should only, yeah, okay. This guy should only show my Flask deployment mostly here. That's in the default. Okay. So now I'm by mistake, I got a wrong image name, a non-existent image name. Now, if you see, what happens is this guy is trying to add pods, but then there was error in image pulling because that's a wrong name. That image doesn't existing. So it stopped destroying the see, it killed one guy thinking that okay, I'll get this guy ready and all, but because it could not pull, it stopped the rollout. That is the default intelligence or the capability of Kubernetes per se. Uh, this is 1 second. This guy is also distracting. This is a what? This is just a pod. Let me delete it for now. I don't need it. Okay. So now, as we configured here, 25% max surge, but ensure that not more than 25% is unavailable. Okay. So it stopped. That is what I want to show you. Even if you do mistake, Kubernetes deployment has got its own discipline. It will ensure that there is not more than 25% of the pods are unavailable. That's what I want to show you. Okay. So now if we come back and deploy to this guy with the correct version, then the rollout will continue. Okay, where is our version? So we know 1.9 is existent. Okay. Now, if you see save, look, now it says my deployment is complete, and then it is creating the container, and then just after it creates the container and puts it from the services, then it will destroy the old guys. Only then it will destroy the old guy. So now if you go here and then refresh, you should see the new version 1.9. See? Refresh continuously, it will be refreshing. Okay, now let us have one more fun here. What I want to do is actor tmp. Okay, I just want to curl while true to curl this guy and just put a date and done. Okay, so this guy is continuously curling whatever speed it can. Okay, now one thing I want to show is when we do any of this deployment, I mean, there's no disruption is what I would like to show you all here quickly. Now, as you all know, my deployment was having some version, right? Let me go and change it to another version. In the right side, you see this time, I mean, it is continuously curling, right? So now I want to change it to another version, like, say older version for whatever reason. It could be anything. And I save. Just keep an eye here. If you all focus, just see if it even stops. Even though the parts are being destroyed and recreated, not even for a second, this load stopped. This request never stopped. And even if you see here from 1.9 version, if you see 1.8, it got the new part, but there is no downtime. We have upgraded or downgraded or changed the version or the content of our application without any downtime from scratch, right? So the build and deployment and the initial testing of the Docker container, you're doing it offline, outside, in a non-prod environment. And then after it is proven and it is successful, you deploy it to the production environment, and there is no gap. From 1.9, it goes to 1.8. And now let us even look and go back to 1.9. So I'm changing the Docker container version with different contents, and it could be totally different, whatever way it is. But what I want to prove is I am Okay, let's keep an eye on the pod here. Okay, so I'm changing the version to 1.9 and currently 1.8 is running. And if you see here in the background, the time it is changing. Now I'm upgrading. Now, whatever is 1.8, without any dropping, it will continuously will continue and become 1.9 because all this orchestration, see, it changed. There is no stopping. It became 1.9 with awesome changes, right? This is one of the greatest thing of Kubernetes, that you can have your code here and test your code and keep build 20 times in your laptop or a non-prod environment, and then when it is ready to be released, you will release it without the users even knowing. From the application point of view, not from the database point of view, that's a different equation, that's a separate thing we will talk. But when it comes to your business logic and code, you can release 20 times a day, nobody will even notice. From scratch, your application, when it is converted to a container and it is built in each of this deployment, and then actually in your code, you can also have lots of complex tests here, right? So test and then security vulnerability scanning, all those things you can do in the code itself. But the end result will be an image in your Docker registry, whether it is the publicly hosted or privately hosted on premises. It is just one immutable container like this. It can start in your laptop, it can start in Google Cloud, it can start in a Kubernetes on your premises. It is just a Docker container anyway, right? Okay,
I have a question here.
please.
So, as you mentioned, this particular file,
Yeah,
it goes till the point of deploying the updated code into, I mean, creating the new image on Docker Hub.
correct.
Uh, can it also go to the next step of deploying it on Kubernetes, or that is still a manual step
Oh,
as
that
you
is also
just showed?
easily you can configure. You can
Okay.
configure here. Okay, now to show you one thing, one of the values is, you see here password, I've stored it as a Docker Hub token,
Yeah.
right? So I've stored it somewhere in, is it in settings? Secrets,
Environment
right?
variables. Yeah. Secret.
Docker Hub token I've stored it as a secret. Now what I can do is my uh, kube config file I
Hmm.
can store here, and then I can configure this guy, the same action. This action can do anything and everything in the world. It is just a tool, right? And if I store it, and then if I configure here as an action, as a GitHub action, here I'm only saying like build Docker container, right?
Yeah.
Build and push the Docker image. There I can also say any change in this YAML file, go and deploy the YAML file there. That is actually interesting topics I want to take up later, and it is called GitOps. It is beautiful and awesome, and this is how people deploy in Kubernetes. That's a separate topic. We will talk about it later for sure. I'll be happy to demo something to set up. So what it does is, okay, see, all these days, Sachin, even your specific question is, can I deploy from here? Correct?
Right. Yes.
But in Kubernetes, the way how things are deployed is something like this. Okay, in a real Kubernetes environment, we push this container image to a container image to a registry, and then code is committed. Then inside the Kubernetes cluster, we will have some. Okay, this is not a push model, unlike the old world. This is a pull model.
Okay.
So what it does is, inside Kubernetes, because it is infrastructure, we will install some software like Flux CD or Argo CD. Now what that guy will be doing is, that guy will be watching a Git repository, which will have this file. You see this deployment file?
Yeah.
This deployment file will be stored in a Git repository. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Now in that Git, okay. So now if you make any changes in the Git repository, this Flux CD or GitLabs or whatever, some component inside Kubernetes is every minute is monitoring that Git repository, which has got the YAML files. This file is stored in Git, let's assume, okay? This file is stored in Git. So now this Kubernetes cluster itself is watching a Git repository every single minute, or every 30 seconds, or whatever you want to call, okay? So now this Kubernetes Flux CD or some other component is watching this Git repo where you have your YAML files. And this guy is also watching your Git repository, whichever you are configured, okay? Now, if there is any new image, or if you make any change to your YAML file of deployment, of service, of storage, or anything, this guy will come and deploy it.
Okay.
So we don't deploy in Kubernetes. Kubernetes itself, if you configure it, is 24/7 watching this YAML files or Docker container. If anything added to the master branch, you can also configure it to have pre-prod branch if it's a pre-prod environment or whatever environment. But let us say this is a production environment. Production environment in Kubernetes, this is always watching your deployment YAML files and containers. If there is any new containers created in any based on any logic, or if there is a master branch is updated here, this guy will go and pull and deploy inside the Kubernetes cluster. This is called Git apps, and this is how, and this is trivially easy to set it up. It's not a complex thing or anything. Like in 30 minutes, in couple of hours, you can learn. And if you set it up once, I love this so much. Fundamentally, you can set it up so that from the IDE, the developer will build the code, and image repo or the deployment YAML files will be stored here, and the developer will test it. And then based on the correct branch, whatever branch you want to pull, Kubernetes itself will pull and deploy it. So that there's nothing like deployment in this new world. Just place your container with the right tag, or make an update to your YAML files in a repository, right?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, basically tracking changes and applying changes as it happens.
Exactly. Yes. So we humans are in the left side of the equation. Either we commit to this Git repo or push a container image. This guy will monitor and pull whatever you want. And the advantage with this thing is that, and you also know that if the image is wrong, image is unhealthy, Kubernetes even will stop deploying it anyway, right? So this is a pull model, not a push model. All these decades, we were only doing push model. But here, life is so easy. It is pull model. And also if you see, okay, because it is pull model, we should be more cautious with the branch. Almost always, let us say main branch is what is configured to be pulled in this repository, whatever this application is, of the YAML file. Okay, not the Docker file, not this app, not this repo. Let us assume we have a repo for our YAML files. Maybe as soon as tomorrow evening, I'll show you that, how this Flux works and how we can do a deployment. And that guy will pull from here. Okay, now the advantage is that we can have see, if you want to merge anything to the, if you want to edit and change it to the master branch, right? You will have one or two levels of one code review. Let us say I make some change here, right? Now I don't commit to the main branch. I'll create a new branch and I'll give it to another developer. Hey, have a look. This is the change I want to do. Or you yourself can merge it. I mean, the point I'm trying to make here is that no developer is going to directly merge it to the master. Is even allowed in a real life production scenario. There's at least two levels of approval is needed before you
Right.
merge. One level is another developer in your team who will look into the code and say, yeah, okay, fine. And then you will have somebody with a managerial authority or some other team lead who will only he will have access to merge to the master, right? So
Yeah.
just a random developer cannot just go and push to here. So all those checks and checks are kept before this goes to the master branch. So yes, optionally we can push it, but in a real Kubernetes environment, it is a pull model, right?
Okay.
Kubernetes
Yeah.
itself pulls. So this is the beginning of the Skynet. Because Kubernetes itself pulls. You don't even know if this Kubernetes gets some intelligence, it knows where to go and what software to get, and it will deploy itself, and then it will take over humanity. Right?
Yeah.
This is the start of happening, and this is another Git deployment workflow where this guy pulls from a config repo and from a registry and leaves on his own. Our job is just to place the config and the containers at the right place. And one time configure this guy to go and this is your container registry, this is your deployment YAML files, and this guy will sync every single minute of the day. And because we have a track record here, right? Let us say something goes wrong really, then what we will do is we will revert back the change which we did. If you revert back the change which we did, then as Kubernetes is looking into this every single minute of the day, it will go and it will revert back because your image has changed or your YAML file has changed. Next minute, this Kubernetes cluster will go and bring it back. And you have a trail of all the changes you have made here in the Git repository. So Git is the source of truth. And you can go back in time in Git. And Kubernetes cluster also will go back in time in Git if there's something goes wrong.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other
Yeah.
questions? Okay, so this is one part I want to show. The second part today I would like to cover is
One more
about.
sorry,
Go ahead.
sorry.
Go ahead, Vasant. No problem.
Yeah. So in case of rolling update, right? Like
Your voice is not very clear. Please be a bit
is it
louder.
okay? Yeah. In
Yeah.
case of rolling update, like kind of updating when the app is running, right?
Correct.
So there are multiple parts will be running. So one by one only it's going to update. But the real time, will it? Is there a chance like that request will go to the old part? Like after the first part, after the request to the new version in the one part reaches, is there a chance will the second request will go to the one of the old part? Like 10
See,
parts. 10 parts are there. 10 parts are there. Like
yeah,
first it's starting go. It's going to update the parts like one by one, right?
yeah.
So when it's like 3 parts, it's updated, right? So it's the request started routing to the new parts. But is there a reason? Is there a place where the other? Is there a place where it can route also to the other 7 parts when the updates is happening?
That is not possible because this is Kubernetes in the sense. Okay, so now Kubernetes knows everything. It controls everything. Correct? Okay, so now as Kubernetes knows everything and controls everything, let us say this. Let us say this is your old parts. Okay, you had this old parts up and running. Let us say 3 of these old parts, version 1.8. Now, what Kubernetes will do is it will create a new version of the part and load here, right? Okay, so now 4th part is created, and now your requests are coming, right? So you have users, user requests are coming. So it was coming to all the pods here, but through a service. Any request come, as you know, it never goes to the pod. It is always through a service, correct?
Yes.
Now, Kubernetes knows, okay, I have 3 pods as on now. I should be only sending it to these 3 pods. Okay. Now you decide to upgrade. So what Kubernetes will do is, Kubernetes will create the new pod, okay? Then it will start sending any new requests coming to this new pod, okay? And it will stop sending any new requests coming from the outside world to any of these 3 guys, because Kubernetes knows I'm going to kill these guys anyway now. When it creates this 4th guy, when you do an upgrade, Kubernetes knows, okay, I'm going to kill these guys from this second onwards. And I've also created a new guy. Any new request coming, I will only send it to the new guy. Okay. And it will wait until this user requests are ended. And then what it will do is, okay, my 25% is covered. Then it will create a new guy. And then because it is all seeing, all knowing Kubernetes, this guy will stop sending this request, right? So already when this guy is created, it knows stop to all these guys and I have to send to only this guy. And then when this user request is done, it will delete this guy. Oh, you know what? Even before this thing, it will stop sending load onto this guy. Okay. And then it will delete this guy. Then it will stop sending load onto this guy. And then after some time, it will delete this connectivity and stuff. And after few milliseconds, it will delete this guy and it will continue to add new guys and continue to send requests here until this guy knows, okay, I got 3 guys, I'll send here. Even earlier, it would have stopped sending request. Then it will completely stop sending request, then completely delete this pod. Okay. So Kubernetes knows because it is in control of everything. It knows, okay, now I got a new deployment which says upgrade to 1.9. And now what I need to do is I should stop. It knows that, okay, I should create a new pod and any new request coming, I should send here to this new pod. I should not send any new request to these guys. It knows, right? It also knows these guys will be, I'm going to kill these guys soon. So I will add one guy and I'll also prepare the next guy. And then I'll start sending this. Even before that, it knows, okay, these 3 guys, it knows, okay, stop sending load, stop sending load, stop sending any new load, right? Only send, it knows I'm going to create at least equal number of servers. I'll send this load and then, okay, stop send load, stop send load. Okay, I've stopped sending load and there's no sessions, nothing, there's no response waiting. Then remove this guy and remove this guy. Okay.
Sure.
Awesome, right? So all these things are thought through. Whatever question you have, Kubernetes people have solved it. Only you need to know.
Sure. The
Okay.
only question is, like, if there is a 500 parts, the bigger environments, right, like Google, like they won't create the 500 parts actually. It will create the parts one by one and it will remove the one by one part, something like that. Like, once it creates the new part, the other, make sure it creates other new part, like one new part, and it will remove the other part.
Okay.
Is it so?
Wait.
Because if you say like it will create the equal number of parts at the same time, then the part
No,
numbers will
wait.
be double.
Did I say equal number? Not yet, right? Okay. Let me see if this guy is useful. See, there are multiple Kubernetes deployment strategies. Good that you asked that question, and so that we will dig deeper into that. Okay. The first one is, as you saw, rolling update. This is what we saw actually. So we are saying ensure that there is no maximum unavailable is 0. In the sense, currently I have 3. So before deleting one, it will add 1 and put it into the services and everything is healthy. And then only it will delete 1. Okay. And then it will not add more than 2 at a time. Okay. So this is a rolling update. Okay. That is simpler and clear. As you saw this image,
Yeah.
there are 3 old guys. You'll create a new guy, send the load, and then ensure that everything is healthy, and then replace this bottom guy, and then replace this guy, and everything is green. Okay. That is first. And then second is blue green. Here, what it does is it will create brand 2 new guys. Okay. And then ensure that it is healthy and all. Then suddenly, in a fraction of a second, it will repoint to these guys. This is second type of deployment. And the third type of deployment is canary. Canary, it will only add 1 pod, right? Add a pod, ensure it is healthy, up and running, and wait. Then it will continue for whatever duration you want. And in the blue green, if you observe, the cutover is in a split second, right?
Mhm.
But the disadvantage is that you had 2 pods. If you ever have 2000 pods, it has to create 2000 more pods and keep it ready. And in a split second, it will cut over, right? But then your
The blue
capacity
will
of
be
compute has to be double,
that's right.
right? So that is the
Today,
advantages and disadvantage. Yeah, go ahead.
today, like my client was telling about Blueberry.
Okay.
Okay, I thought like they are keeping the name as Blueberry. Okay,
No.
in the terms because I know rolling a bit. Okay, that's what I was kind. I know that rolling a bit,
Okay.
but I don't know blue green. So he was telling like blue green, right? I said blue green. It's a their terminology. I thought like the 2 environments will be there. Like it will once it is ready, once the new code is ready, then it will move into the other the blue. Like it will interchange it, swap it. That's what they told.
Yeah.
I thought like it's the internal terminology. Thanks, actually. I came to know it's a new thing.
Okay. So these are all the default deployment capabilities of Kubernetes. They thought through all those things like, okay, people, and also there is one more important thing I actually want to show you. Let me see. That's called recreate. This is not Kubernetes like, in the sense what it does is version A is terminated completely and version B is rolled out. So it means there is a downtime. This is old way of doing it. In old way of doing it, you'll shut down the old version and then update with the new version and restart the services of the new version. Correct? At this thing, there is from 1 second to 1 minute to 1 hour, there's a downtime. But it's a choice. But then in a Kubernetes world, nobody wants to recreate anything. Right? Right? So, and blue green is also a choice. But in blue green, at least for 1 split second, like maybe a millisecond or 10 milliseconds, there is a disruption. But at least there is no, like if the application B, which is you're upgrading, is like completely different from what it was, then maybe in some scenarios you want to have blue green. But then by default, most of the time in Kubernetes, you will and this is also default deployment methodology. Like even if you don't choose anything, rolling update is the default strategy, but you have choice. You can do blue green, and or you can do canary deployment, or and few other choices are there. And you can also say max surge. You know what, if I give 100%, okay, let us look into that. Okay, let's have fun with this thing. So I got 5 here. Now let us go and tell this guy, okay, max surge be 100%. Okay, if we say max surge 100%, my theory is that it will create 5 more and then start deleting the unnecessary old guys. Max unavailable 25%. Okay, ready? I clicked. This max surge should be 100%. I think nothing would change because I'm not making any change. See, Kubernetes is intelligent. I'm not making any change, so it doesn't kill and do anything. Okay, so now let me go to this. I think it will not allow me to edit because it's the same file. Okay, so I changed the max surge. If you see, the max surge percentage is 100% is saved in the etc database. Now let us change the version of this guy to 1.8. Save. If you see it added 5 more immediately. It did not go one by one, and then when 5 new guys are ready, then it immediately deleted the old guys in like one fraction of a second, all of them at the same time. Okay, so even in rolling upgrade, you have lots of choice. Like you can bring many of those terminologies like that here, right? And you can have 50%, and then if you really love your application, you can even say max unavailable is like 0%. Right, so then it will create 5 and wait until all the 5 guys are healthy, and then or whatever that detail, and only then it will change. Now let us change it back to 1.9 here. So not even one part will be unavailable. Each of those 100% of the 5 parts should be available and ready, and then split over. Then also it will decide to send the load to the 5 pods, new parts, and only then it will kill the old parts when there are no requests coming to the parts. But in this scenario, unfortunately, you need to have double capacity, right? Because it needs to add 5 more, and then it will wait it's healthy, and then delete this 5 other guys. See, container creating new, and then after everything is running, then it is deleting. So for the split second, you need to have like double the capacity. But see, if you're running 30% of your data center capacity, then it is still okay. It'll go to 60% usage, and then it'll come back. Not a problem, and that too for like few seconds only, right? So this deployment methodology itself, the rolling update is the safest way for us to do. And here itself, you have lots of choices. How much unavailable, how many of them is max surge. The best would be to have 0 unavailable, so nobody is affected. But then surging also, you don't need like 100%. 20, if you have like 100 parts, then you don't want to surge like 25 more or like 100 more parts, right? It is okay if 25 parts also go up. Oh, sorry, I have to go back here and edit it. Right, so this is about deployment. I only want to search for like 25% surge, and also let me make the scale to a little bit bigger number. Say replicas, let us like make it 10. See, it has not deleted anything yet. It will only like add, and it's creating, because from 5 it ensured that it is successful, and then it is creating this 10th guy, like scaling up. Okay, so lots of awesome capabilities inbuilt. Google people have experience in all these things, and they've thought through all these things. So when they designed Kubernetes, they thought, okay, this is how it should be deployed. These are all the options. These are the inbuilt capabilities. They know that there should be a choice where max unavailable should be 0. But then if you want to ramp up, and if your application is not like long running queries or anything, then you can have any other different numbers. Okay. Any other questions?